We're in Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the top. V'chi davar. So, this is the middle of a subject here. So just to recap what it says before, there's the hazahs that are done on Yom Kippur, inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim and outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's going to be towards the Pareiches. So inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there's the hazah of the par, the hazah of the sa'ir, and they're both achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata. But as the Gemara pointed out, this hazah of achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata, this was still on Daf Nun Hey, so it doesn't say in the Torah clearly by the par and the sa'ir how it should be done. Achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata. It says half by each one of them. By the par, it says the sheva l'mata. By the sa'ir, it says the achas l'mayla. And it says by both of them that it has to be sprayed l'mayla l'mata, but the amount, the number, it only says by the par l'mata sheva, and by the sa'ir it says l'mayla once. And we compare them to each other. There's a hekish, because it says in the pasuk v'osa es dam kasha osa l'dam apar. So that hekish teaches me that by both of them the number is achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata. That's regarding that. Then the Braisa right at the end of Daf Nun Vav Amud Beis said that we learn out another hekish v'chein yasel la'oyel mayid. What does v'chein yasel la'oyel mayid mean? That I compare the hazahs of achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim by both the par and the sa'ir, that the same thing is also done when it's outside in the heichal towards the pareiches, by both of them achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata. Okay, so now the Gemara has a question on these limudim here. Do I say such a thing that if I only learned out the first halacha from a hekish, that then I should be able to learn from there another halacha in a second hekish? So Rashi here brings, this is a klal by Kochim. By Kochim there's a klal, if you have one halacha that you only know from a hekish, you can't then make a secondary hekish based on the first hekish. That's the rule. By Kochim, you have one hekish, and after that you can't make a second hekish. So it seems that that's what we're doing here. The whole halacha of how the hazah of the blood of the par and the sa'ir is done inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim is relying on a hekish. And then from that first hekish, we're learning out a second hekish that you should spray the blood of the par and the sa'ir outside towards the pareiches in the same way. So how could we learn out a second hekish if the first way it's done and the inside is already based on a hekish? So the Gemara now explains that this question is not according to everybody. So this, over here, the fact that we're making a secondary hekish would be understood according to the opinion that says, Lo yav hekish. Did I skip something? No? Okay, I skipped one line over here. Let me go up one line. Okay. Hi. So the Gemara answers, over here, it's not something that we're learning from a hekish and we're making a secondary hekish. Why not? Hi, heimenu v'davar acharhu. Over here, I'm learning it from this itself without a hekish, and there is a part of it that is a hekish, and therefore v'lo have a hekish. It's not considered to be a hekish. So Rashi explains what the Gemara means to say. What the Gemara is saying is, part of what I'm learning out from is not a hekish, because part of it says clearly in the pasuk regarding the par and the sa'ir that's brought inside. What does it say? It has to be done l'mayla and l'mata. The pasuk clearly says that. It has to be ala kapayres and lifnei kapayres. So that part's not a hekish. Now the number of how many times l'mayla and how many times l'mata, that is a hekish. So therefore that's what's called heimenu v'davar acharhu. I'm learning out a hekish from something that part of it says clearly and part of it does not say clearly. So therefore that's not called a hekish. So I could make a hekish to learn out from there. If the first halacha was fully learned out from a hekish, then I can't make a secondary hekish. But since part of it says clearly, so therefore that's not considered to be a hekish, and I could learn out and compare for the hazah of the blood that's done outside. The Gemara asks, your answer you're giving is good according to the opinion. So this is a machlokes in the Gemara and Zvachim, as Rashi here brings. This is a machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel in the Gemara and Zvachim. So according to Rabbi Akiva, so he says that in such a case, it's not considered to be a hekish. In other words, the first case is not a hekish because part of it says clearly. So therefore, over here I could say the same thing. But according to Rabbi Shmuel, so he says that even in a case where part of it the Torah wrote clearly, but there's a part that you are learning from a hekish, so what are you going to say? So in such a case, even though the Torah in general said that you have to spray l'mayla and l'mata, but the number of how many times it didn't say. and that you had to learn from a hekesh. So how could you make a secondary hekesh? So the Gemara gives two answers. One answer is Mekaimais hu de gamri me'adadi. Over here, when I learn out the secondary hekesh, it's not the same as the first hekesh at all. The only time you can't make a secondary hekesh is if you're learning out the very same thing as you did in the first hekesh. So therefore, Rashi explains what the Gemara is saying here is, in the first hekesh, what were we learning out? We were learning out the par from the sa'ir from the par. These two behemoths, we were comparing the two behemoths to each other. That was what the point of the hekesh was. In the second hekesh, the point of the limud is not to compare the behemoths to each other. The point of the hekesh is to compare the locations to each other. Just like what's done inside, so too we do the same outside, right? That's the lashon of the pasuk. V'chein yaseh la'oil mayid. So therefore the hekesh is a different type of a hekesh. So therefore it's not called a secondary hekesh. It's one answer. Another answer the Gemara says is, or I can tell you, chutz mibifnim b'chodezim negamar. I could learn out what you do outside from the inside all together at once. What does this lashon of the Gemara mean? So Rashi's pshat in the Gemara is that even though it's true that what's being done inside is learned from a hekesh, but there is part of what's being done inside where the Torah says 100% clearly what should be done. If you remember what we learned before regarding the par, the Torah clearly said sheva lamata. I don't need any hekesh for that. Regarding the sa'ir, the Torah clearly said that it has to be achas lamayla. So therefore there's a chelik of what's being done inside that the Torah spells out 100% clearly, and I'm not relying on a hekesh. So for that aspect, I could learn out to the second hekesh, because I'm not relying on a hekesh at all. So if I'm not relying on a hekesh at all for this chelik, so therefore I could also learn out for the other chelik along with it. That's the Gemara's answer. So this is different than what the Gemara said before. Before what the Gemara was saying is that the Torah told me in general that there has to be two azahs. The Torah told me in general that there has to be azah l'mayla and azah l'mata. But it didn't give me the number clearly at all. And therefore the Gemara said, if so, for the number you're relying on a hekesh. Even though for the fact that it has to be l'mayla and l'mata you're not relying on a hekesh, but for the number you're relying on a hekesh. And there's the machlokes between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel, since there's one fact of l'mayla and l'mata which I don't need a hekesh for, but the number I do need a hekesh for. So could I learn out a secondary hekesh from that or not? Now the Gemara is adding another detail. It's not only that the Torah wrote me in general that it has to be done l'mayla and l'mata, but then for the number I need a hekesh. Even for the number, in part, the Torah did spell out clearly what the number is. By the par, the Torah told me clearly once l'mayla. By the sa'ir, by the par, the Torah says clearly 7 times l'mata. By the sa'ir, the Torah says clearly once l'mayla. So even regarding the actual number, the Torah already spells out half of each way, the story clearly by each one halfway. So therefore, that even Rabbi Shmuel would agree, I could learn out a secondary hekesh from that. Sagt the Gemara, Tane, Keshehu Mazeh. Now coming over here to this halacha, how was the hazah done outside in the heichel, that is, towards the pereiches? So when you spray the blood, Keshehu Mazeh, Eina Mazeh ala pereiches. You don't spray the blood on the actual pereiches. Ella, rather you spray it keneged the pereiches, towards the pereiches. And it doesn't have to land on the pereiches. Amar Rav Elazar bar Rav Yosi. Rav Elazar bar Rav Yosi said, no, he disagrees. He says, Ani re'isiya b'roimi. I saw the pereiches in Rome. V'hayu aleh kama tipi damim shal par v'sar sheyem kippurim. I saw the stains of the blood from the par and the side of Yom Kippurim that was sprayed on the pereiches itself. So you see that the Kohen Gadol has to spray it on the pereiches. So the Gemara asks, how do you know? Maybe what he saw was something else. V'dilme the par helem dava shel tzibur sire avodah zara hava the chazer. Havu, that maybe that's what it was. So the par helem dava shel tzibur and sire avodah zara are karbanas that their bloods also has to be brought inside and sprayed towards the pereiches. So maybe when he saw the stains on the pereiches, it was from those karbanas. How does he know that it was from Yom Kippur? So the Gemara answers, no, the chazeh, the avide kisidron. He saw the stains of the blood on the pereiches, that it was in order, meaning that it was that he saw clearly the achas lamayla and v'sheva lamata, and as Rashi explained before, it was done kematzlif, like when you give the malchus, that you start on the top of the back and you continue going down. So he saw that the blood was in such an order. And by the par helam davar shel tzibur and sira avodah zara, it does not have to be sprayed in that order. So therefore he knew what he saw was the blood from the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur. Okay, so that's one version of this braisa, of this story over here. Now the Gemara brings another version. It's Tanami. We learned also, or some say it's a braisa, it's supposed to be Tanya, that we learned in a braisa, Gabi par helam davar shel tzibur kahai gavna. A similar story, that the similar machlokes. Keshu mazeh, so over there the Tanakama says, when you spray the blood from those karbanis, lo yayu noigim bepareiches. It doesn't have to touch the pareiches. Vim nagu nagu. If it did touch the pareiches, then it touched it. Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi, so Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi said, Ani d'isiya b'raimi, I saw in Rome the pareiches, v'hoyu alea kama tipi damim, shal pahel and davar shel tzibur sira avodah zara. I saw the blood of these karbanis that it did touch the pareiches. So the question the Gemara asks over here is, V'dilme the par v'soyer shal yom kippurim ninu. Maybe what he saw was the blood from the karbanis of Yom Kippur. How does he know it was from those karbanis? Answer is the chazinu David shaleika sidron. According to this version, he saw the blood that it was not in the order the way it was sprayed in Yom Kippur, and therefore he knew that it was from those karbanis. So, I mean, the truth is, not sure if Rabbi Elazar or Rabbi Yosi mamish means to argue, because even according to the Tanakama, it doesn't say that it's not allowed to touch. It just says that it doesn't have to. As you see here, he says clearly, if it touched, it touched. And same thing by Yom Kippur. He's saying that you spray it towards the pareiches, and it doesn't have to, but maybe it did, and that's what he saw. So this is the two versions in what he saw. Did he see it in a straight line, the way it's done in Yom Kippur, or did he see it shaloi kesidron? The Gemara now goes into a new subject regarding the bloods. We have over here the bloods of the... could be that he saw both. He saw different pareiches in different times. Yeah. What? No, the story of what he saw. Maybe he saw both. What? Same time, yeah, okay. Good. The Gemara now goes into a subject of these bloods, the par and the soir, that both have to be sprayed inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim and outside. What happens if they get mixed up? The bloods got mixed into one another. Nis'arvuloi domim bedomim. The bloods got mixed into each other. So what do you do now? Amar Rave, so Rave says, so naisen achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata. So you do like you always would, once on the top and 7 times below. And now because you have one bowl of blood that has both mixed into it, and and doing that one time will be the hazah for the par and for the sar. You don't have to do it separately. So they said this that Rav said in front of Rav Yirmiyah. So Amar Rav Yirmiyah said, Bavloi tipshoi. The people in Bavel are fools. Mishum the dairi ba'ara the chashayche. They live there in a dark place, in a dark land. Omri shmaitze the machshachem. They say a halacha that's dark. That's not true. And he explained what his problem with what Rav said is. Ha kayav l'mayla the soyer. If you're going to say that he does it once, and that includes both the blood of the par and the soyer, so then he's spraying the blood of the soyer above mikame mata the par, before he's spraying the blood of the par the 7 times below. So it's out of order. And the Torah says, V'chila mechaper es hakodesh. You should complete of doing the kapara for the par first, which means kale da mapar. First, you have to complete the spraying of the blood of the par, the achas lamayla, and the sheva lamata, and v'achakach kale da masoir. And only afterwards do you do the 2 azos of the soir, achas lamayla, sheva lamata. So you can't spray once above for the par and the soir together. Elam Rabbi Yirmiyah, so therefore Rabbi Yirmiyah says in such a case where the bloods got mixed into each other, what do you do? So you spray once above and 7 below, l'shem par, and you have in mind that you're doing that for the par. And and you do it again, and l'shem asar, and then you have in mind that you're doing it for the blood of the soir, which is mixed into this one bowl of blood. I don't know if you have to say breida. The fact is that this blood has in it both. So when you're spraying it, so the fact that the other blood of the par comes along with it is not meineya the zrika. So the first time it's just your kavanah. The first time you do it for the par, and the second time you do it for the soir. Another scenario, nis'arvu loy domim b'domim b'matonis ha'achreinis. What happens if the blood got mixed by the matonis ha'achreinis? What does matonis ha'achreinis mean? So Rashi says he already sprayed once l'mayla from the par, and then after that, it got mixed. So what do you do now? So again, the Gemara brings, so Rav Papa kamei de Rava lemeima. So Rav Papa was learning in front of Rava, and he thought to say, so now what you do is Neisen Sheva Lamata. So you spray it Sheva Lamata l'shem par u'l'shem soy. So once you're doing the Sheva Lamata, so you do it for both the par and the soy together, and then v'chayz v'neisen achas l'mayla l'shem soy. And then you have to give once more l'mayla. You have to spray once more l'mayla for the soy. That's the order, the way Rav Papa wanted to say.
How is it? Achenes mixed. If you're standing ready, going.
Yeah, it got mixed. Kasha famaisa. It got mixed. Yeah. Amalei Rave. So Rave says to Rav Papa, how could you say this is the order? Ad hashta koron tapshoi. Rabbi Yirmiyah referred to what I said before. He says that we're tipshim, that we're fools. Vahashta. Now the way you're saying we should do this tipshoi, did tipshoi. We're going to be fools of fools. They're teaching us that what we said before was wrong, and we're not learning from our mistake. And explain them what his mistake is. The way you're saying it should be done. So you're spraying the blood lamata of the soir, mekame maila the soir, before you're spraying the blood lamaila of the soir. And in the pasuk it says, ten lamaila v'achkach lamata. It says first al pnei akapiris, which is the lamaila, and then it says lufnei akapiris, which is lamata. So how could you do it out of order? So Ela Amar Rava, so therefore Rava says over here the same thing, that has to be done. Nisan sheva lamata l'shem par. So first you have to spray 7 below for the you have in mind that it should be for the par, and then v'chayze v'naisen achas l'mayla v'sheva lamata l'shem soir, and then he has to spray over again once l'mayla having in mind for the soir, and 7 below having in mind for the soir. That's when the bloods got mixed into all in one bowl. Now another scenario, nis'ar v'loi kaisis b'kaisis. How about if the blood did not get mixed into one bowl, but he confused them? He doesn't know which one is which. Which one is from the par and which one is from the soy? So what does he do now? So the halacha is Naisen v'chayzer v'naisen shloisha pamim. He's going to have to spray the blood 3 times. Right? So he's going to have to spray the achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata 3 times in order to know for sure that he got it right. So mimanav shach, he's going to have for sure the dam of the par before the dam of the soy. Okay, so if he did it the first time right, so then the dam of the par was first and then the soil. But if the dam of the soil was first, so then he sprays it a 3rd time, so then he has the dam of the par first. So it has to be done 3 times. How about if a case happened, miktsas damim nisar v'loi, only some of the blood got mixed into a 3rd bowl, or miktsas damim loy nisar v'loi, but some of the blood did not get mixed into a 3rd bowl. He still has the 2 bowls of blood that could be used separately, but some of it got mixed into a 3rd bowl. So now what's our shaila? Now, pshita, it's obvious, ki yoiv, when he sprays the blood by the Kodesh HaKadoshim or by the Pereiches, mivadon yoiv. He's going to spray the blood from those 2 bowls where you know for sure what it is. Why should he take from the blood where there's a suffix, where it's mixed? Miu, however, our question is going to be as follows. Hanach shirayim havu, those bloods that got mixed into that 3rd bowl, are they considered to be the shirayim of the blood that was sprayed? And therefore, what's the halacha of the shirayim of the blood that the zrika was done of it? The halacha is that the shirayim all has to be poured onto the foundation of the mizbeach. As called dam yishbach al yisayid mizbeach, as the Gemara is soon going to bring the pasuk. Or perhaps I should say in such a case, duchuyin havu. Those bloods that got mixed into that 3rd bowl, that's not shirayim. That's blood that's pushed off. That's blood that can't be used b'chlal. And what do you do with bloods that can't be used, that is pushed off? V'ozli la'ama. That kind of blood is not poured in the yisayid of the mizbech, it's poured into the stream of water that was running through the azara. That stream of water would go out into Nachal Kidrain, into a stream that was outside of the Beis HaMikdash. So you pour it in that stream. That's the shaila here. Rav Papa, so the Gemara here brings a machlokes about this. So Rav Papa says, and this is going to be based on a braise that the Gemara is going to quote in a moment. In the braise, the Gemara brings a similar shaila when you get a person that was being makabel the blood of a carbon. A regular carbon, let's say. A person was makabel the blood, and he was makabel the blood into 2 bowls. Nothing got mixed, but he was makabel the blood into 2 bowls, and then he did the zrika from 1 bowl, and then now you have another bowl. What happens with that 2nd bowl? Do you pour that 2nd bowl, the blood in the 2nd bowl on the mizbeach or not? So that's a machlokes in a braise. So Rav Papa now says, Omar Rav Papa, afil lamanda omar kais echad. The blood that you received into 1 kais, The blood that's in the other kais becomes shirayim. Hanemili, when is the kais that the blood that's going to be in the other kais going to be shirayim? Heiche di iboy lemesav matziyav. That's because in that case where a person was makabel the blood from the shchita in two bowls, he could use either one of them. They're both right to be used for the zrike. So therefore, if he ends up using one and not the other one is also considered to be shirayim because the other one was fit to be used. Aval hai, but over here, what's the case we're talking about? That there's the blood that got mixed into a third bowl. The iboy lemesav lematziyav. He can't spray it from the third bowl. The blood that's in the third bowl is mixed. So therefore,
if he wouldn't have the other two bowls, he would use that.
But now he does. He has the blood from the other two bowls, and he knows this is from the pot, this is from the source. So that's what he has to use. He can't use the ones that are mixed. So in such a case, the blood that's mixed in the other bowl, so since he can't use it, it's not called shirayim. It wasn't right to be used at all. So therefore it has to be poured into the amma, into the stream. That's Rav Papa's approach. Rav Huna bereid Rav Yeshua Rav Papa. Rav Huna bereid Rav Yeshua says to Rav Papa, no, I'll give you an opposite svara. Adarabba, to the contrary. Afil ulamanda amar, even according to the opinion that says, that when I was makabel the blood from a carbon into two cases, so I'm using only one and I'm not using the other, and because I'm not using the other is not called shirayim at all. The other is called pushed off, and therefore you don't pour it on the mizbeach. Hanimili, when is that true? Why does that opinion say so? The dachye biyadayim, because you intentionally went and decided not to use it. In other words, it was fit to be used. You decided you don't want to use it. So biyadayim, you went and pushed off something that could have been used. So therefore, that's not called shirayim. So you don't pour it on the mizbeach. Aval, however, over here, over here, when the blood of the pot and the soy got mixed into a third bowl, you didn't intentionally decide to push it off. You just can't use it. It's mixed. So technically, you can't use it. Maybe in such a case, it's still called shirayim. You didn't intentionally push it off, and therefore would be poured on the mizbeach. So we have two opposite svaras over here, benigeh to this blood that got mixed into a third bowl. Now the Gemara brings the source of where it says this machlokes in the Braise regarding a blood that was received into more than one keli by a carbon. The Tanya, so we learned the machlokes in the Braise as follows. There are two psukim. L'maylo aimer, in the beginning, earlier on, the pasuk says, Vezdama yishpaich. So the pasuk there says that the blood is poured el yisaid mizbach ha'ila. So it says the blood is poured to the foundation of the mizbeach. This is the halacha of the shirayim. The leftovers from the zrike is poured on the yisaid. Ulamato, then later on the pasuk says, Ves kol dama yishpaich. All of the blood should be poured on the yisaid. So here the Torah adds the word kol. What's the difference? Why once does the Torah not say kol and once the Torah does say kol? So the Tanakama darshans it as follows. Minay and lechatos. How do I know the halacha by a carbon chatos? Shekibul doma ba'arba kaises. You receive the blood from the carbon in 4 different cases. And then what did the person do? What's the halacha by the carbon chatos? The carbon chatos, you have to spray the blood in the 4 corners of the mizbeach. So v'nosan mizeh achas, so he has now 4 cups. So he sprayed from one of them on one corner, or mizeh achas, or from another one on the next corner, and so on. He used all 4 of the cups to spray on the mizbeach. So he used all of them. Shekula nishpach and liyisayit. So therefore, since they're all shirayim, he used all of them, so they all have to be poured to the yisayit, the leftovers. Talmud loyma. This is what the pasuk means the second time when it says the word kol. Ves kol dama yishpach, that all of the blood has to be spilled onto the yisayit because he used all of the 4 cups. So the Tanakama continues, I would think that the same halacha would apply if he has 4 cups of blood. But he only used one of the cups to spray on all 4 corners on the mizbeach. The other 3, he didn't use them at all. So I would think that the other 3 have to be poured on the yisayid of the mizbeach as well. Talmud loyma ves dam moy yishpaich, it's blood, meaning the blood that he actually used, that's what's spilled. Here it doesn't say kol. That's teaching me that hu nishpach li yisayid, the one that he used is poured to the yisayid, v'hei nishpach la'ama. The ones that he did not use are poured down to the amma, to the stream that goes out of the Beis HaMikdash. This is the Tanakama. Rabbi Eliezer, or the other gear says Rabbi Loza b'Rab Shimon Aimer. Rabbi Loza b'Rab Shimon argues he learns the psukim differently. From where do I know that if he received the blood in 4 different cases? And he only used one of them to pour in the mizbeach, to spray on the mizbeach, that is. and the other 3 didn't use it all. But nevertheless, shekula nishpachen liyisayt. Nevertheless, from all of them you pour into the yisayt. Talmud loyma ves kol dama yishpach. That's when the Torah writes kol. It's coming to tell me, even in this case where you only used one of the cups, nevertheless you pour all of it on the mizbeach. So now the Gemara explains, according to Rabbi Elazar, but Rab Shimon haksiv ves dama yishpach, that only its blood, the one that you use. What does you learn from this pasuk where it says dama yishpach and not kol? Ravashi says that's coming to be memayit something else. Lemuute shirayim shevitzava behema. The shirayim that's left over in the neck of the animal that you would not makabel, you don't have to squeeze that out onto the side of the mizbeach. Only the blood that was received in the kais has to be poured on the mizbeach, damai in the cup, not what's in the tzavah of the behema. That's what he's memayit. So here's the machlokes regarding the blood that was received into more than one cup, whether you have to pour everything on the yisayt, even from the cup that you didn't use b'chlal for this rike. Going back to the Mishnah, what did it say? So we're continuing over here with the halachas of the zrika. So there was the zrika done inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Then there was what was done towards the pereiches, achas lamayla v'sheva lamato. And now it has to be sprayed onto the Mizbeach HaZahav. And it said in the Mishnah, what do you do with the blood when it's sprayed onto the Mizbeach HaZahav? Ira damapar l'toich damasar. You take both of these bloods, you mix them into one another, and then you pour it on the Mizbeach. Sagt the Gemara, Tanan, the Mishnah here is teaching me, Kemanda Oma ma'arvin l'krones, like the opinion that says that you mix them before you pour them on the corners of the Mizbeach HaZahav. The Itmar, because we learned the machlokes about this. Rabbi Yeshia and Rabbi Yonasan argued about this blood that's poured in the Mizbeach. Chadamar, one of them said, ma'arvin. You mix the blood first and then you spray it on the Mizbeach. Chadamar, another opinion is, Ein ma'arvin. You don't mix the blood, even when it's poured on the Mizbeach HaZahav, you don't mix the blood. So now the Gemara says, let's see who holds what. To Stayim, I'll bring you a proof for the fact that Rabbi Yeshia, hu da amar ma'arvin. That Rabbi Yeshia is the one that says that you mix the bloods. What's the raya for this? The amar, because Rabbi Yeshia said, afal gav, the loik siv yachtov. Even if the Torah does not say the term yachtov, it's as if it says the word yachtov. So what is this referring to? So Rashi here brings the source in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, where it says in the pasuk, Ish asher yekalel es aviv ve'es imay. If a person curses the father and the mother. So the question is, what does it mean when it says es aviv ve'es imay? So Rabbi Yoshia says that it's only if he curses them together. Even without the Torah saying the word yachtov, right? Es aviv ve'es imay. Rabbi Yeshia says, when it says es aviv es imay, even if he curses each one of them separately. Why? Because the Torah does not write the word yachtov. Right? So it's as if the Torah wrote the word yachtov. And Rabbi Yonasan says that unless the Torah, when the Torah writes es aviv es imay, does it mean together, or does it mean, the question is, when it says es aviv es imay, does it mean as if the Torah wrote either the father or the mother, or when the Torah writes es aviv es imay, it means right, both of them together. So what does Rabbi Yeshia say? Rabbi Yeshia says aviv b'loy imay, imay b'loy aviv. You're not going to be chayiv if you're going to curse them separately. It's only because the Torah writes there again, aviv kilal imay kilal. In other words, when the Torah writes es aviv es imay, it means dafkif, they're done together. In other words, you read it and. Even though the Torah does not write the word yachtov. Even without yachtov, you read it as and, that it has to go together. Rabbi Yonasan says, no, if the Torah does not write the word yachtov, then it's read as separately. Either the father or the mother. So what do you see from this? According to Rabbi Yeshia, when the Torah writes es aviv es imay, it means together, both of them together. Unless the Torah writes the word yachtov, then I say, again, even without writing yachtov, it's as if the Torah wrote the word yachtov. It's as if it means together. So the same thing the Gemara now is saying over here, benigeh to what it says by the dam. What does the Torah say? What do you have to do with the dam? V'lokach midam apar umidam asar. What does the Torah mean by writing midam apar umidam asar? Does the Torah say that it has to be done together? Or does the Torah mean separately? So according to Rabbi Yeshia, even without writing the word yachtov, it's as if the Torah wrote the word yachtov. Okay, so therefore over here you have to mix the blood together, just like over there. When the Torah writes es aviv, es yima, even without writing the word yachtav, it's as if the Torah said and. Over here as well, when the Torah writes midam apar umidam asoir, it's as if the Torah wrote that it has to be done together. This is Rabbi Yeshia, the source to say that this is Rabbi Yeshia. Okay. So the Gemara answers, no, this is not a raya. I could say that in our case, Rabbi Yonasan would agree that you mix the bloods together. Why? Because shani hacha d'chsiv achas. Over here, the Torah writes achas bashana, and because of that word achas, I learn out that it's done together. So over here, Rabbi Yonasan would agree. But the Gemara now brings a source from a Braise where it clearly says, like we were saying before, that Rabbi Yeshia is the one that holds it, mixes it together, and Rabbi Yonasan holds it, you don't mix it together. Tanya deloi kishinuyan. We learned in a Braise, not like we had just answered, that Rabbi Yonasan would hold over here that you have to mix it together, because in the Braise it clearly says, v'lokach midam apar umidam asar sheyiu me'oravin, that you have to mix it together. Divrei Rabbi Yeshia. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yeshia. So again, Rabbi Yeshia's shitta is, even if it does not say yachtov, but because it says midam hasoir, midam apar, so automatically I know that it has to be done together. Rabbi Yonasan says no, it doesn't say in the Torah yachtov. So therefore I say mizeh b'fnei atzmai or mizeh b'fnei atzmai. I have to spray from each one separately. Amalei Rabbi Yeshia, but so Rabbi Yeshia said to him, but va'aloi kvar nema achas. What do you learn out from the fact that the Torah says achas? Doesn't achas show that it should be done together? But Amalei Rabbi Yonasan, so Rabbi Yonasan answered back to him, but va'aloi kvar nema midama par umidama sahir. So the limud is, why does it say the word umidam again? Why doesn't it just say umidama par v'hasoir? The fact that it says midama par umidama soir, that shows that it should be kept separate. Imkein loma nema achas. So now according to Rabbi Yonasan, that learns out from midam umidam that has to be separate. So why does it say achas? Leimalacha achas v'lo ishtayim. It's coming to tell you that you spray in the mizbeach only once and not twice. Midam apar, from the dam apar you spray only once. And achas v'lo ishtayim midam asoir. You only spray once and not twice from the dam asoir. Tanya Yidach, let's just finish the Indian here. Tanya Yidach, we learned in a different Braise. V'lokach midam apar midam asoir sheyiu me'uravim zeh b'zeh. So the way to read the pasuk is u. U means together, that they should be mixed with one another. You think that it means that it should, the u means that it should be combined together as one. No, maybe it means that you have to spray from each one separately. Talmud Loima achas. Therefore, the Torah writes achas, which clarifies that it should be mixed in together and sprayed together. So this is a braisa which is saying stam, like the opinion of Rabbi Yeshia. This opinion is brought in the Sikha, where the Rebbe discusses the machlekes of Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yeshia. The machlekes of Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yeshia is found in Shas many, many times. The basis of their machlekes always is, whenever you have a few things that comes together, do I combine and look at the common denominator of them together? Or do I divide and look at each one being separate? The Dam Apar and the Dam Asoir, I can look at these two karbanas and say they're very different. Dam Apar is for the Kohen Gadol, which is a Yachid. The Dam Asoir is for Klal Yisrael. Very different types of karbanas, so their zrika should be done separately. Or do I say no? Hayes, they're both karbanas that are brought in Yom Kippur, and the Torah puts them together. Dam Apar, Dam Asoir. You should combine them together. And the same thing, the Rebbe connects this to the of Korban Pesach that we learned before. Is Korban Pesach considered to be a Korban Yachid or Korban Tzibur? Do I say that I look at each Yid separately bringing his Korban and therefore it's a Korban Yachid? Or do I say since the entire Klal Yisrael comes together at the same time to bring the Korban, it's considered to be a Korban Tzibur and it's Deicha Shabbos? And the Rebbe brings how many machlekesen? I think 9 or 10 machlekesen, where you see the same machlekes of Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yeshia. Do you look at the common denominator or do you look at what distinguishes them from one another?